Breaking news. Law enforcement, specifically search and rescue officers as well as FBI agents, are crawling all over the neighborhood of Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni. This is not looking good, especially after the fact that brand new footage was released to the public and was given to the FBI today of the number one suspect. I don't think you could call him anything else when he's wearing a full ski mask, hoodie, pants, has a gun on his waist, gloves, and we see him covering up the camera. We officially have footage of the suspect, and there's a lot to be taken away from that. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. A lot of things, we see the video, but there's a lot to be taken away, and a lot of telling details that it gives us just by some of what you see in this footage, this very short clip, when you really study it and watch it over and over again. Law enforcement is all over the neighborhood of Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni. Why? I'm going to tell you why. Let's get started. As I said, the original intent of this video was to talk about these photos that are coming out on the internet, which are actually just quick screenshots from an actual 20-second or so clip from a Ring-style doorbell camera. It's just put out to the public today and recently got in the hands of the FBI. Okay, and so now that's put out, and it's like, hey, give us some tips. What do you got? Does anybody got anything from this? And initially, you might think, oh, man, this guy's really, you see it here. This guy's really well covered. And he was. I'll give him that. But not covered enough. I even saw some theories. Oh, this is a woman. I think it's a woman. Look at the eyes. Look at the eyebrows. Those aren't eyebrows. That is the contrast of material casting a slight shadow on the skin. These are not thin eyebrows that a woman may have. You clearly see here there is a mustache on top and bottom. This is a man. You can tell by the gait. You can tell by the size. And we're going to get into that. But first, let me talk to you about what's currently happening as we speak. As I'm recording this video, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's happening still right now. Search and rescue specifically. Here's a photo. There are vehicles, police vehicles out there that are specifically search and rescue vehicles. Why is that? We have not seen those anywhere on scene at all during this entire case that is going on, 9-10 days now. We have not had a vehicle that is marked search and rescue. Okay, something big has happened, and something big is happening hours after that footage got released all over the internet and national news. This is big, so stay with me. There are search and rescue officers as well as FBI agents swarming Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni's neighborhood. Now, obviously, to preface this legally, all of this is my opinion and just my theory, and this is all allegedly, yada, yada, yada. Now let's talk. When you look at this footage, there's a lot to be said about this. And this ties in directly to what I'm going to tell you about what I've seen and what I'm going to show you from the heavy law enforcement presence on Annie Guthrie's street. You see this person, it's a man. They got a mustache and goatee, and we also know Tommaso. He's got he has that as well. Not saying it's him, but he has that as well. I'll tell you what law enforcement, especially FBI, is going to be able to tell from this footage. Look at this footage. Number one, they're going to be able to scale his height. That is not hard. There's amateurs who do that. It's not hard to scale his height based on, the measurements of the house that they can take and just the pillars and the bricks. We're going to get an exact height. We have a general weight. We have a general build, somewhat stocky, considering the style of camera. We're going to get a pretty precise complexion just from the small openings of the mask. They're going to have shoe size because we see his feet. We're going to have all of that. And probably even the exact style of shoe, brand and model of shoe this man is wearing. On top of that, it's very odd. You see right there in the front, if you don't know what that is a holster for a gun right there in the middle of his waistband. You know, usually you think, oh, on your side, on your hip, maybe even on the back side of the waistband. No, it's right there in front, and he seems to keep that hand right close to it the entire time. With everything you see, every photo you see, that hand is just inches away from that gun in that holster. And FBI has confirmed he was armed. So there is a gun in that holster on the front, which is very unusual, and that's going to be an issue too. Because you got to think, everyone's going to see this, and it comes down to what stands out to anybody. If you think of, someone did this, and so there is a someone. This someone knows people. There is a circle of people who are going to see this and be like, oh, Johnny McGee usually does that, or I think I've seen those pair of gloves at Johnny McGee's house. That's how it works. And so you got the gun holster with the gun right there smack dab in the middle of your waistband. That's quite unusual. You don't really see that often. That's going to stand out. On top of these gloves, they look like high quality, maybe even like, if not leather, some type of like faux leather material. Okay. Yeah, you got the hoodie and the long pants. The shoes, you can definitely zero in on and find exactly what those shoes are. The backpack specifically, there's like these reflective straps and pieces on the backpack that make it pretty distinct. And, to the average person, it's like, yeah, well, I don't know what backpack that is. But what it comes down to, there are people who have also bought that backpack who are watching this case. And they're like, whoa, that looks just like the backpack I bought my son, Johnny. Or that looks just like the backpack I bought for myself, as a carry-on to go on this flight to, Timbuktu. That looks I work at Walmart. Johnny from truck unloading just had to stock a bunch of these backpacks. So I know what this backpack is. And that's how this turns into something. Now it's okay. We know, okay, it was this backpack and it sold. What stores sell this? Oh, only 3? Okay, let's check those 3 local stores within a 20-mile radius of Nancy Guthrie's home and see if there was any recent purchases of this. And if there were, let's get the security footage for it and see what we see. Oh, there's a man. What do you know? There's a man buying it. Oh, man. And you see from the footage, there's a gait. You have a stride. You have movement. You have body movement. Oh, that's kind of similar what we see on the camera footage of the Nancy Guthrie doorbell camera. That's pretty equivalent to what we're seeing and how they walk and their stride and just general movements and build, height, maybe even the same clothes, shoes, anything. On the CCTV footage of Target, Walmart, wherever he might have bought this item from, gloves, backpack, anything. Okay, and so that's what they're going to be looking at. And I say all that to say that's probably what they've already looked at. And I'm confident about that because I think it's pretty clear. Yeah, we put this footage out. You got Savannah Guthrie. Hey, if anybody knows anything, please say something. She just said that last night on her Instagram to millions of people. Hey, anybody, please help. And then they come out with this footage. Hey, does anybody know anything? We encourage you, call and just say it, no matter how obscure or how flimsy, it is. Just if you got anything to give, just give it to us. Hours later, There are search and rescue teams as well as FBI agents swarming Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni's street. And so let's talk about that. And this is where we're going to get into, this is alleged, this is a theory, this is an opinion. I'm not stating facts. I'm not defaming. I'm not going to lie, man. The build, the height, the facial hair that we can see, it's pretty consistent. I have a theory. This is a very, very niche theory. This is just one I've come up with myself. And if it's ridiculous, feel free to rip me apart in the comments. But I have a theory that we know it's confirmed now that Tommaso Cioni was in charge of the power of attorney over Nancy Guthrie. We know that. That's confirmed. The documents have been put out on the internet. I think Tommaso Cioni showed up to the house. You got to look at this footage. This is a man who is not in a hurry. He's not in a rush, and he doesn't seem uncomfortable being on that porch. He seems quite familiar of that porch. But this is also a man who seems to not be familiar and not be comfortable with the act he's about to do because he hasn't done it before, possibly doing it out of desperation. He's moving around. He's, the problem. You know where you're going. You know you've been there several times. You're not totally out of place. This is my my wife's mother's home. I've been here. I know my way around. But then you notice the doorbell camera, and you would say, well, if it was him and he's so familiar with this place and feels so comfortable with this place, he would have already knew exactly what to do. He knows there's a doorbell camera. He would have known, I have a plan in place to go ahead and immediately cover this up. Understandable, but here's my argument. That's negated by the fact that this is not an action, a crime, an atrocity that he is used to doing. This is possibly something out of desperation. And so he doesn't know to think through these he's thinking, he's building the courage, building the guts, the chutzpah, the spine to go in there and do something like this to this sweet, poor old woman, innocent woman. He's not thinking about all the little intricacies, the Ring doorbell. It gets clouded by the fact that I have to convince myself and get over what I'm about to, the big thing I'm about to go do. And so he doesn't think about that. And then he gets there and then he notices that because he's paranoid. I'm on the lookout. Whoa. And even then, and I think this is supported by the fact of how covered he is. And even that's another, this is not an expert. This is not a professional. This is not a high-level cartel member. I've seen that theory. This is not this is someone who really has never done this before. They're an amateur, but they really, really, really tried really hard to think this through. And so they did come with a mask. And it tucks into your hoodie and it covers your neck and you got gloves and you have a sweatshirt and you have sweatpants and shoes and you tried your best not to show anything. But you didn't realize, because you're not a professional, you're not an expert, you're not some high level, oh my goodness, like out of the world, things we see in movies, just people who pull this stuff off. You're not that, but you tried your best to be. And you slipped up because it's your first time, I believe. You showed your mustache. You're over there moving. You didn't even consider the Ring doorbell camera. It's clear that the doorbell camera caught you off guard because you seem to panic. It's look at it. It's almost like he doesn't even know how to move his fingers anymore. He's like doesn't know what to do, and then like frantically looks around and finds a little pile of like loose plants or flowers or just grass, moss, whatever, just anything he could find in the vicinity, picks it up and places it over the camera lens, which doesn't even fully it did cover it a good bit, lucky for him, but it didn't even fully cover it. He had no plan for that. And that screams rookie. Okay. And so that's just another thing pointing back. And now, with all that being said, 2-3 hours after this, here you have FBI and search and rescue, which has not appeared at any time during this case in the last 10 days. Search and rescue officers showing up, questioning neighbors, asking them if they've seen anything suspicious, peering into the windows of abandoned houses and looking into the desert for what? Footprints, a drag path for a body, or most likely, and in the worst scenario, signs of some digging in regards to a burial. And so that's what you have. I'll leave you with this because it's this is just a personal theory that there's not a lot of facts to support this. And so I'm not going to report this as a big thing. You just take all that seriously. And then if you're curious, here I am. I think we now know with 98% surety these ransom notes were BS. They were false. They were frauds. They were hoaxes. I think Tommaso Cioni showed up to the house and paid extra. He spent so much time and paid so much attention to covering himself from head to toe with all this gear in hopes that Nancy, who obviously, I'm married to your daughter, very well knows him, wouldn't recognize him. And they had other plans. But those plans went awry because I think Nancy, maybe it was his voice, he slipped up, he said something out of nerves because, again, I think we can infer this is not a professional. He doesn't do this, 10 times a year. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm just such a professional at it. No, I think this was his first time. He slipped up and did something, and Nancy verbally acknowledged that she recognizes, hey, I know you're Tommaso. I know it's you. And at that point, Tommaso, maybe not even immediately, but maybe he had to take some time and come to terms with the fact that, hey, there's kind of no other way for my own self-preservation. I guess I have to. Because let's be honest, I don't mean to sound cruel, cold, or harsh. And I pray to God I'm wrong. But let's be honest. Does anybody really think that Nancy is still alive out there? I mean, genuinely. I don't think I've seen anything that points to the fact that she is in the last 4 days. I think things went wrong, and he had to resort to plan B to hopefully, in his mind, protect himself from getting caught because she recognized him. That's just my theory. Other than that, one last little thing. I'm just saying this because it is a thing that was kind of big today, and I've even seen some big, respectable newscasters report on this, and I was very surprised that they did because I thought this was kind of silly. I don't condemn it, but I just thought it was not really worth major news, but I guess if they're going to report it, I'm going to bring you all the big reports of the day. Jonathan Lee Richards, JLR, Investigates. That's a YouTube channel, and I like him a lot. I've actually donated a lot of memberships to him because I think the work he's doing is very, very good, and I respect him a lot. So this is nothing against him. One of his members from a completely different state ordered a pizza from Domino's locally to where he was, which he's been camped outside of Nancy Guthrie's home for days now. Ordered a pizza, and so the Domino pizza guy shows up and goes and knocks on Nancy's door and rings her doorbell the home of Nancy Guthrie. And so all the media is freaking out. Whoa, 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 what is this? And I think the big highlight is how easy it was for just a Domino's pizza guy to bypass security, sheriffs, policemen, all that. And I think that kind of highlights the assumed incompetency of that local law enforcement, that everyone is really upset with for many much more serious reasons, right? So that was a thing, and then it turned out the guy comes down and JLR actually asks him, completely unaware. He's like, "Do you know where you're at? Like, do you know where you're delivering pizza to? Like, I think you're being pranked." And he said, "Oh, well, let me call the person." They said, "Oh, well, I'm on the phone with the person who paid for the pizza." They said they're in Oregon. Their name is Alyssa, and they ordered it on behalf of JLR Investigates. And he said, "Oh, that's me." And she's like, Alyssa basically on speakerphone said, "Yeah, it's me. I'm a fan. I ordered it for you just to support you. No harm meant. I just wanted you to have some food out there because you're out there all day. I just wanted to order you a pizza." So nothing but wholesome intentions on her part, but that was pretty crazy. But that's an update that I'm going to, I'm ending it with that because that's the least important update, but it is an update. And that's something that's kind of being shown on the news today. So, it's my job in my mind to catch you up on everything that is important. You can always just check in here for your one-stop shop of a video if you missed everything else, because people are making videos every 17 minutes every day, I swear. So other than that, I will keep my eye on this. And if you don't hear from me again tonight, that means they didn't find anything. If you do hear from me again tonight, you better click, because that means it's serious and something crazy happened. See you next time.